So as a starting point, we would like to know more about your journey, especially like if you can tell us more about your undergrad journey. How did you choose physics, experiment, and then your current research area? If you feel free to like just highlight as much detail as possible as you want for like each stage up to you becoming like a professor at OSU.
So, the
Okay.
floor is yours.
Well, let's see. So, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri,
Okay.
which is right on the border between Missouri and Illinois on the Mississippi River. I'd say my interest in science, like I always had an interest in science broadly defined, even when I was a grade school student. I was really interested in science and math. So like one of my nicknames for my classmates was Speedy Gone Gupta, because we had like these timed algebraic tests, and I used to like pride myself on doing those as fast as possible, even if I made some mistakes. It's more important to do them more quickly, which obviously is different now. But anyways, it was fun. So like I was always interested in science and kind of kept that up throughout grade school and high school. I stem my interest in physics, I think, stems a lot from having a great high school physics teacher, and that's probably true for a lot of people. And at that time, AP Physics was kind of newish, so I did have an opportunity to take an AP Physics course, and then I think based on just interest, they actually offered a second course. So I actually had 2 years of AP Physics in high school, which was, I think, unusual. The teacher definitely went out of his way to kind of come up with new things. Like I remember, studying a little bit about digital logic and gates and things like that. And I don't think I really encountered that at all in my undergrad. So like it was really kind of just more a kind of a creative class.
Nice.
So you did like more like the experimental side of physics in high school before actually doing that in undergrad?
Or like, since you were talking about electronics and logic gates.
Yeah, I mean, like, I took a computer science course in undergrad, but that was more programming. So it didn't talk a lot about gates. And, it's probably different now with like quantum computing and information being more, popular and of great interest. But, at that time, it's kind of surprising, like there's this gap in kind of covering like logic gates and how computers work. They're still kind of more or less magic to me, but, it was interesting that I got that exposure in my high school course and not ever since, basically.
Okay.
And then moving to undergrad, you already decided that you're gonna continue in physics?
No, so actually, so my dad was a PhD chemist and has a chemical company. So he really wanted me to take over the company. So I actually was I probably started out as a biochemistry major. But I did physics kind of unofficially throughout. So I ended up double majoring in chemistry and physics. And pretty much took almost every course that they had. This was at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So for my high school, which was right on the border, basically a lot of the science students would kind of gravitate either toward University of Missouri, Columbia, or Rolla, or the two state schools, and then Illinois, Urbana-Champaign was the third one. In-state tuition wasn't as inflated back then. This was 1991. So, it was a little bit more expensive to go out of state, but not like it is now.
I see.
So you ended with a double major in physics and chemistry, but you were leaning more toward chemistry?
Or
That's how I started off, but, I kind of, I enjoyed aspects of both curricula.
okay.
So like I think the lab activities were actually richer in chemistry.
Okay.
You get a little flavor of that in intro chemistry courses, but when you take the majors courses, like the emphasis on synthesis is, you're making things, which I like, and then you're using a lot of interesting instrumentation to characterize what you've made. Is the structure right? What's the purity? So I found that aspect very interesting in chemistry. In physics labs, they were not as engaging for the most part, I think, certainly at that point in time. But I definitely enjoyed the lab experiences in both.
I see. So did this shape like your decision for the grad studies? So did you do it in physics or chemistry, or like mix of both?
So my grad work was in physics at UC Santa Barbara. Mainly, I applied to a range of schools. At that time, also, undergraduate research was not so common. So, like, I was certainly way less savvy than applicants are now, as far as thinking deeply about the places or doing homework on the faculty at those different places and so on. But I applied to a range of places, and
You only applied for physics?
Yeah.
All these places? Okay.
And I really wanted to, at that time, I was interested in astrophysics, and one of my main motivations was to learn more about astrophysics and general relativity. So I took, I majored in physics and chemistry, and I also took some astronomy courses as electives. So I really did take a lot of courses as an undergrad.
But then what was the point where you switched to, or like made the decision of doing experiment?
Like experimental physics. Was it during your PhD?
Yeah, so, I hadn't really had that in mind, even though, I enjoyed the lab courses. I didn't really have that clear distinction between theory and experiment. Okay. I did have just a little bit of undergrad research experience, which was in condensed matter experiment. But basically it was writing some instrument programming. And I had to cut it short in that summer because there's some family health concerns that led me to go back home. But so that experience was kind of minimal. I wouldn't say it shaped what I wanted to do.
But you mentioned you were interested actually in astrophysics. So how did this switch happen from like astrophysics to condensed matter experiment?
Somewhat by chance, but I got recruited by a faculty member at Santa Barbara actually before I arrived. He offered to let me work in his group, and I think he might have even had a GRA appointment for when I started. So I was only I wasn't a fellowship student. I think I had like 1/4 of a GTA my whole grad career. So that was fortunate. He turned out to have a very successful career and was prominent. So he was able to offer a GRA position, and that's what I think really sold me on experimental physics. So I really enjoyed it. All the nuts and bolts aspects, I really found very energizing.
So if you can give us like a brief overview of your PhD, what was it about, and then we can move forward to like postdoc and professorship after that. So
okay, so my PhD research was in ultra-fast optics of spins in semiconductors. And so I started out, I blended a little bit of chemistry experience in the sense that one of the materials that I looked at were semiconductor quantum dots that were chemically synthesized. So I didn't do the chemistry myself, but I collaborated with the chemistry group. And I did some things like dispersing the dots in matrices suitable for optical studies. I got a lot of experience with ultrafast lasers. And at that time, they were transitioning from argon lasers as pumps, which were much more finicky and high maintenance, to solid state lasers. That was a big change in terms of reliability of the equipment and also, average power and what you could do with them. So, I had access to like a pretty sophisticated kind of cutting edge range of ultrafast optics, like a OPA, optical parametric amplifier. So I got to do time resolved measurements with the white light continua probes and tunable pump energies.
Okay. And moving then to after you you are done with your PhD, what was the next choice for you? Like, did you apply for multiple positions, like for postdoc, or you did it at the same place? And in what area?
I wanted to learn new skills for my postdoc, so I applied to a range of places, about maybe 10 or so. And I had a good number of interviews. I think I interviewed at about 8 places. And that's less common now, I think, to actually invite a postdoc in for an interview. Yeah. But in academia and industry, so I did apply to. I was more interested in kind of academic style research, but there was a lab at IBM Research Center in San Jose that was doing kind of academic style research, and so I applied there. And that's actually where I ended up going. So the lab there was led by Don Eigler, who is a pioneer for scanning tunneling microscopy. I think he developed the first low temperature microscope, or at least one of the first ones. And actually, he has this famous quantum corral picture that he did while he was at IBM. So I in my postdoc interviews, it was a range of skills. So maybe there's one or two kind of ultra-fast optics groups, but STM I hadn't learned anything about. I did have a little bit of background in scanning probe, just at the start of my grad career, before transitioning mainly to optics.
But like during your postdoc, this was the place where you transition, like you made the transition toward like atomic force microscopy and being focused on it, or this was like already decided?
I mean, so I at the time I didn't know anything about it, but I learned the technique, and that was a particularly fun time to join that lab because they were. I got to plug into this really neat project looking at quantum tunneling of carbon monoxide molecules, where the STM was used to place CO molecules on a surface, and it turns out you could tune the landscape for the molecules such that there's 2 metastable sites, and so you could actually observe, tunneling of something massive like a molecule directly, and we looked at isotope effects and all sorts of things. So it's definitely probably about the most fun you could have with the STM.
Yeah. I see.
And was this the only like postdoc you made, or you had like other postdoc before applying to faculty positions?
No, so that was the only postdoc. So that was 2 years, 2002 to 2004. So, when I was applying for faculty positions, I wanted to integrate my experience, which I think is not too uncommon for people. So like I proposed to focus on STM, but adding in capabilities to the technique using optics. So actually my initial focus was to develop something called tip-enhanced Raman spectroscopy, which basically could give you sub-optical wavelength resolution.
And did you apply to multiple like faculty positions, or like why did you choose OSU?
Yeah, so I applied to on the order of 10 places and had, I think, about 6 to 8 interviews. At that time, it was a pretty aggressive, the OSU physics was kind of pretty aggressive about hiring. So I think the year I started, we hired about 6 people. Wow. And what attracted me to OSU was the colleagues that I'd be interacting with. I got a strong sense for that. Like people like Chris Hamill were a big factor in me wanting to come here. And they had because of the kind of aggressive push to expand, they were offering really good startup packages, which allowed me to kind of really try to start my lab in the kind of the most ambitious mode possible, where we had one commercial microscope that we could just buy and get up and running quickly, and then we also were building this custom microscope, which actually is right here. The older version is right here, to do this tip-enhanced Raman spectroscopy.